So ministers are known for having heaving bookshelves. And I'm just thinking about what those books are. So some are reference books. Some are just the latest thinking on a subject or the latest book. It used to be The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. It's probably now Pete Gregg's How to Pray or whatever it is. So you have all those books. But many of the books on a minister's bookshelf will be commentaries. And I don't know how much interaction you've had with commentaries, but they are simply written to help us understand the text and what it means. And in reading them, we get a lot of understanding about the text that we wouldn't previously know. And I'd like to suggest we are probably more likely to stick with the core things because the commentary will at least guide us to these are the core things. Every commentary is biased, let me say. And if you look at the publishing house, which whoever the publisher is, that can often tell you what kind of theological stall they come from. If you don't have commentaries, what I would encourage you to do is, and if you're in a church which does have a minister with these available, is when you're preaching on a text, go and ask them, can I please borrow your commentaries on this passage? Or can you photocopy the pages? I see it absolutely as my fundamental duty when we have 6 or 7 other preachers in the church. If they're given a text preached on, I will copy all the relevant commentary notes so they have absolutely everything that I would have to preach on a subject. And just a word about different commentaries. I've got some here that I wanted to show you, just some different kinds. So here we've got Mark for Everyone. It's Tom Wright's series through the New Testament, and they are very accessible. And these give you, I think, a very good basic understanding. And all these books, I'm going to suggest, you can get very reasonably. I very, very rarely buy a new book. You can get them all secondhand. They're not there to look pretty, they're there to read the text. So I found a copy of this online today for £3.50. You can have, that's the whole basic series. Mostly, I guess, you get commentaries like this. This is Deuteronomy by Raymond Brown. And this is part of a series where different authors will do a different book of the Bible. I found this one online today for £4. But by the way, all these prices, I included P&P. So this is the absolute cost of them. Obviously, if you're preaching lots, it's going to add up, but you can get these very easily. Here's a really old copy of a book that's still in print. There's new copies of this. It's the IVP New Bible Commentary Revised. I found this online, the New Testament for £10 and the whole Bible for somewhere between £15 and £17. But basically, go through it. There is comments on every chapter of the Bible. And so to have one of these and speaking a text, this will at least give you some basic stuff about that passage you're looking on. And finally, this has become a bit of a favorite of mine. This is one book in a series. There's 3 in the series. And it's a lectionary commentary. I know Baptists don't usually use the lectionary, but the lectionary, you may well understand, is in many churches, Catholic, Anglican, Methodist. They have 3 years worth of set readings that cover the most important classic texts in the Bible. So they're called years A, B, and C. And if I guess right, I think we're in year C again this year. So get to the end of November, beginning of Advent, when the lectionary year starts, it'll be back to A in December this year. But I often, if I've got a passage, will just look at the index at the back and just see if the lectionary commentary does talk about it. And this gives me some great insights into, most of the classic texts that you're likely to preach from in the Bible. And I found these available for the ridiculous price of £4 or £5. So for 15 quid, you could probably have an almost whole Bible cover of commentaries. So it's just something about commentaries. But please, beg, steal, and borrow, go to ministers, ask them to give you copies, and that would be really useful. The other thing I was going to talk about was just about feedback and getting feedback. We've kind of alluded to this, and some people in our group were talking about feedback, and for good or ill. Just one story about my own journey on this. So some years ago, I felt that I got a bit stuck with my preaching. And by stuck, I mean that I'd kind of reached a certain level, but it kind of became a bit samey. So I needed to, be stretched and learn something new. So I rang up a friend of mine, another minister, who's a fabulous preacher. And I did something that ministers don't do. I said, can I come and preach in your church? You wait to get invited. You don't say, can I come and preach? But before he could say anything, I said, the reason is because I want to preach. And then you sit down with me afterwards and tell me what you thought of it. So I did. Margaret may know who this is. It was some time ago. It was at Wakefield Baptist Church. And I went over and he just gave me one regular Sunday evening. There's only about 40, 50 people there. And I gave my sermon. And I remember afterwards, I thought I'd preached my heart out. We went down the pub afterwards. And for the next half an hour, 40 minutes or so, he absolutely ripped it to shreds. But I tell you, Bayek, it didn't help. And it began a whole new journey of discovery for me. Now, that may not be your personality type, but that was really helpful. So I would encourage you to look at getting feedback. One way I'm going to offer to you in the notes that Margaret will send out, I'm going to send you 2 possible templates for getting preaching feedback. So have a look through of them. There's a kind of a shorter one and a longer one. And by the way, the longer one is basically the template that Northern Baptist College uses with its student ministers. So it's very comprehensive. Of all the questions there, you might want to kind of rip out some questions and make up your own version. Whatever, you do whatever you want. But I just encourage you, even people who've been doing it for a few years like me, to get some feedback, and not just from your spouse, is a really, really helpful thing to help you develop. And it should cover, the content in your delivery and the context and all those things. So you'll get that in your notes, those 2 templates to do with getting feedback, and I'd encourage you to use them. Anyway, that's me done. So Margaret, you're going to say